Picture a quiet street at dawn. The birds are trying out a new chorus, a bakery's first batch is rising, and then, brrrap, a neighbor fires up a smoke-belching van, idles for 10 minutes, and roars away. He gets the convenience. Everyone else gets the cough. That, in miniature, is a negative externality, a cost created by one person or business, paid by everyone nearby. You feel it in your lungs, on your utility bill, in your insurance premiums, and, years later, in taxes that fund cleanups and hospital wings. Markets are great at pricing what buyers and sellers see. The sticker on the gas pump, the fare on the ride-hailing app, the invoice for fertilizer, the bargain price of a disposable plastic thing that won't last as long as the packaging it arrived in. What markets don't price by themselves are the side effects. Polluted air, congested streets, dead rivers, microplastics in bloodstreams, antibiotic resistance. Those costs land later on people who didn't choose them. The kid with asthma, the commuter crawling through a jam, the town funding a water plant upgrade, the nurse treating heat stroke in a record summer. Economists call that gap the externality. The bigger the gap, the more you feel like you're paying for someone else's party. So how do we close the gap without strangling the party? Enter the quiet hero of sensible tax policy, the Pigouvian tax, named after a very patient economist who suggested that if an activity imposes a cost on others, the price should include that cost up front. Make the bad neighbor pay at the curb, not the ER. When you align the price with the true cost, two things happen. People and companies do less of the harmful stuff because it's no longer artificially cheap. And the money collected can be used to undo damage or cushion affected households, turning a vicious loop into a virtuous one. Let's ground that in fumes, tires, and traffic. Congestion is a classic externality. Your car makes my commute slower, my late arrival makes someone else miss a delivery window, and a city loses millions of hours of productivity one drizzle-soaked Tuesday. A congestion charge flips the script by asking drivers to pay for the space and delays they impose during peak hours. In cities that have tried it, the pattern repeats. Traffic volumes drop, average speeds rise, buses run on schedule, emergency vehicles get through, and retailers discover that footfall returns when streets aren't gridlocked. The people who value the road most at 8:30 a.m. still drive. Those who can shift trips do. It isn't anti-car, it's anti-jam. And if revenue funds better public transport or repairs the very roadbed those cars beat up, the circle closes. Carbon is the big bad neighbor because it hides in almost everything. Burning fossil fuels is like running a tab at a bar you never visit. The climate doesn't send itemized bills, it sends bigger storms, strange seasons, crop stress, power grid blowouts, and heat that makes construction crews start at 4 a.m. A carbon tax or a cap-and-trade system says, plainly, that the price of emitting should include those downstream costs. Set a price per ton of CO2, and suddenly the choice between a leaky boiler and an efficient one isn't about morality, it's about money. Plants upgrade, trucks switch routes or fuels, buildings insulate, entrepreneurs sprint toward cleaner tech because the market finally speaks their language. And here's a twist that never gets enough airtime. You can return the revenue to citizens through rebates or lower payroll taxes so households come out even or ahead while pollution drops. That isn't theory, it's just arithmetic. Make the bad neighbor pay, then give good neighbors their share back. Plastic bag fees, bottle deposits, and disposable cup charges are the pocket change version of the same idea. The bag is free until you count the clogged drains, the cleanup crews, and the turtles swallowing confetti. Add a small fee and behavior flips almost overnight. People bring totes. Stores give stronger bags that last. Litter drops because bottles now have value, so kids and community groups collect them for cash. The brilliance isn't the size of the charge, it's the signal that the thing has a cost beyond the checkout beep. Noise is a stealthy externality you can measure with sleep tracking apps and cranky toddlers. Airports that charge higher landing fees for louder aircraft, or higher nighttime fees than daytime, are doing Pigou proud. Airlines respond by scheduling quieter fleets at sensitive hours, residents get rest, and the airport funds soundproofing for homes and flight paths. Your neighbor's midnight leaf blower may not face a meter and a bill yet, but the logic holds. Price the disruption, and the market learns to whisper. Sometimes the externality comes from the ground we feed. Fertilizer runoff turns rivers into algae soup, starving fish of oxygen and staining beaches the color of regret. If fertilizer is underpriced relative to its downstream damage, farmers apply too much because the margin looks irresistible. A runoff fee or a fertilizer tax, combined with technical help and rebates for precision equipment, nudges farms to use exactly what crops need, not what a spreadsheet overshoots. Yields stay strong, rivers breathe again. It's not anti-farmer, it's anti-waste. Then there's the microscopic menace of antibiotic overuse. Every unnecessary pill we take and every routine livestock dose that isn't medically justified breeds bacteria that shrug at our last lines of defense. The cost of a cheap prophylactic dose isn't the coin at the pharmacy. It's the hospital ward 5 years later where nothing works. Taxes, strict stewardship rules, and differential pricing on non-therapeutic uses tilt the field back toward sanity, while revenues can support surveillance and the expensive research pipelines for new drugs. When your neighbor treats their flu with leftover antibiotics, your future infection gets harder to cure. That's the ugliest bad neighbor tax of all. Time stolen from tomorrow's medicine chest. If pricing harm at the source is so powerful, why doesn't every policy do it perfectly? Measurement is hard. You can strap a meter to a smokestack, but how do you meter a million lawn mowers, or the 2 a.m. subwoofers, or nitrogen seeping across a watershed? Good design picks the point of control you can measure and influence. Upstream at the refinery, at the fertilizer plant, at the bag dispenser, at the airport gate. Rates must be high enough to change behavior, but not so erratic that no one can plan. And then there's fairness. Many environmental taxes look regressive at first glance because low and middle-income households spend a bigger share of their budget on energy and goods. That's why smart systems pair the charge with rebates, lower payroll taxes, or targeted investments, so the average family is protected or better off even as the signal says, please pollute less. Design determines outcomes. A clumsy tax can make life harder without moving the needle. A thoughtful one cuts harm and cuts checks. What about competitiveness? The fear that if one region prices pollution and another doesn't, factories flee and the planet just gets the same emissions with extra shipping added. Again, design matters. Border adjustments can charge imports for their embedded emissions and rebate exports, leveling the field and encouraging trading partners to price carbon too. Revenue can fund plant modernization so local employers become cleaner and more competitive, not casualties. And transparency helps. When consumers can see product footprints, they start choosing the cleaner widget because price plus externality becomes the new normal. Cap and trade deserves a quick translation because it can sound like alphabet soup. Instead of a fixed tax per unit of harm, a government sets an overall cap on emissions, issues permits that add up to that cap, and lets firms trade them. The cap ratchets down over time. Companies that can cut cheaply do so and sell excess permits. Those with fewer options buy permits while they retool. The market discovers the price, the cap guarantees the quantity. Both carbon taxes and cap and trade are trying to yank the same lever, align private costs with social costs, using slightly different mechanics. The success stories share two traits: clear rules and a steady tightening that lets industry plan. If this still feels abstract, zoom back to your own life. The short drive to the corner store that you could have walked? It's priced at pennies of gas and a comfortable habit, but unpriced for the neighbor who inhales your cold start emissions. The cheap flight that undercuts the train? It's priced for your ticket, unpriced for the climate that absorbs the jet's exhaust at 30,000 feet. The discount gadget with a battery welded in, destined for a landfill in 18 months? It's priced for the click, unpriced for the recycling center that can't crack it open. Taxes that nudge you toward walking, trains, durable goods, and repairable tech aren't scolding you. They're correcting a spreadsheet that left columns blank. There's a hopeful counterweight to all this talk of harm: positive externalities, the good neighbor effect. When your rooftop solar keeps your block cooler and your utility grid steadier, when your vaccination helps shield the stranger on the bus, when your compost feeds soil instead of methane-belching landfills, you create benefits you can't fully capture. Subsidies and credits for these things are the mirror image of taxes on harms. They say thank you for being the neighbor who saves everyone else money. Here's your share up front. The government as silent partner isn't just a slogan for spreadsheets. It's the logic that since we all gain when you do the right thing, we should help you do it. Now for the skeptic's chair, because skepticism is healthy. Won't a pollution tax just make companies shove costs onto consumers and call it a day? Sometimes prices rise. That's the point of a price signal. But that's also why we recycle revenue back to households and invest in alternatives. Won't clever accountants find loopholes? If a tax is riddled with exceptions, yes. The antidote is boring. Fewer carve-outs, clear definitions, strong audits, and real penalties for cheating. Won't technology solve this without taxes? Technology sprints fastest when the track is marked. A steady price on harm and steady rewards for clean breakthroughs are precisely what push engineers and capital toward the better widget. Markets are powerful engines. Taxes set the GPS. Good policy won't turn every neighbor into a saint. There will still be idlers, scofflaws, and late-night drummers who believe 2 a.m. is jazz o'clock. But honest prices make most people better neighbors by default. And because we live together whether we like it or not, the benefits compound. Fewer emergency room visits, lower insurance premiums, sturdier infrastructure, bills that bend downward because waste is finally expensive, and paychecks that stretch further because we're not collectively bankrolling other people's messes.